Hey, how's it going, everybody? In today's video, I want to show you a strategy that I've been using with TQQQ, share with you what the results are of the strategy through some backtesting using wallstreet.io, and what the buy and sell criteria are. Over the last 10 years, the strategy beat the buy and hold of TQQQ, and it only trades about 9 times per year. So I also just like to use it as a nice buy signal for long-term holds as well. So I'm going to be using the backtesting software wallstreet.io to show you how the strategy works and show you the results of the backtesting from the 10 years prior. Just bear in mind that this is not financial advice, and all the backtesting is going to show historical performance. So this is not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen in the future. Nevertheless, the strategy is pretty awesome. I found it using this Discover feature on wallstreet.io. So if you come in here, you can see all of these different strategies and how they performed. So this one here was the average annual return of 67%. And then you can see how it compares up against the buy and hold strategy. And for those of you that don't know, TQQQ is a leveraged ETF. So it tracks the NASDAQ 100, but it tracks it 3 times the move that the NASDAQ makes. So I cover this in another one of my videos, and I'll link it here. And personally, I like to do a little combination of buy and hold, as well as sort of swing trade these, or just use these signals as good indications of, when it's an opportune time to buy. Because sometimes it might keep you out of, some volatility, and you can get a better price even when you're intending on holding long term and not selling. So then you just, basically ignore the sell criteria. But if you look over here at the results of the strategy, and this goes back 10 years, and a question I get a lot on these videos is what price is being used to calculate the profit and loss, and that's the closing price of that day. So if you get a buy signal, it uses the close of that day as the results. So the closer you are to that, the closer the results are going to be. If you can get lower than that, on your buy, you'll be in even a better position, or if you're higher. So you can buy after market, which is what I end up typically doing. So that's how wallstreet.io does it. They do just daily strategies, which is fine for me. I don't like to do anything on a shorter time frame. So I was going through these Discover strategies, and then if you go in here, you can see what the strategy is. And so this is currently the highest returning strategy on wallstreet.io, but I'll show you the one that I came up with. And some of these are pretty specific, kind of curve fit. So I wanted something that had less criteria that I could use as more of a general guideline, even if it wasn't the highest yielding result. So what I came up with after playing around with some of them was this. And so you can see, my return's a little bit lower. It's 63%. I'll pull this one up, but it uses a lot of the same indicators and criteria as some of these other strategies that have performed really well on this website. So it's a pretty cool thing to check out and compare how the different strategies are doing. So you can see over here with this strategy, it trades on average 9 times per year. And if we track it through the past couple of years, it'll show how it compares to the buy and hold. So TQQQ gave 55%, and the strategy did 52% so far this year. You can see it outperformed in 2020 because it avoided a lot of the volatility. Same thing in 2019 and 2018. And then some of these years going back, it underperformed TQQQ buy and hold. So in 2014, 2015, there was kind of just some sideways movement and really not good for any sort of momentum strategy. And then 2011, the oldest year, it's just a little bit below. So the buy criteria for this strategy is split up into 2 parts. The first is looking for bullish momentum. So that uses a MACD, which is kind of over an intermediate time frame for a daily. And then this pretty quick stochastic crossover. So if you have both of those signals, you want to have a buy. And then the other thing is looking for a 3-day RSI to be below 36. So 36, fairly low value for an RSI, but 3-day, pretty quick. So again, we're just looking for short-term oversold conditions, assuming that most of the time TQQQ is going to give us an advantage to the upside. So that has been true at least for the last 10 years, but time will tell if that will be the same moving forward. So you have these 2 kind of buy criteria. One is bullish momentum based, and the other is looking for short-term oversold. Also, it's important to point out you don't want to buy if any of the sell criteria are present. So it's possible for the buy criteria to be present at the same time as the sell criteria, which you'll see. And that would mean if you would not want to enter a trade at that time. So now we get into the sell criteria. And one thing I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I like to use these indicators because I'm looking for them for, a swing trade opportunity, but then also just as good points to rebalance or add to my long-term positions. I pulled up the indicators here on wallstreet.io, and because there's so many for this strategy, it's really hard to see any one. So we're going to go to TradingView here later in the video, and I'll show you how I set up my view for this strategy. So I can just turn these off here, and now we're just looking at the actual trades, profitable trades in green. So if I come over here to the sell criteria, our sell criteria is made of two signals that you have to have at the same time. The first one is the ADX, and the ADX is a directional index, and it indicates how strong the trend is. It doesn't tell you about the direction of the trend, but it tells you if the market is trending. And then it's also got a fairly slow MACD. So the MACD is a momentum indicator. And so if we get a bearish signal on this fairly slow MACD, and we're also having a trending market, that's when we're going to want to sell. So I think the reason that this works really well is that when the market is trending, you either want to look for the exit pretty quick, or you don't want to buy while the market is trending very strong and it's bearish. So remember, the buy criteria also requires you not to have sell criteria present. So as long as we have this sell condition, we don't want to enter any trades. And you'll see that this 21-day ADX and that trending above 23, it doesn't happen very often. The market has to be trending pretty strong in either direction. So when you have a lot of blow off top scenarios, the market is trending very heavily, and then you get a sudden hit down in momentum and you want to get out because usually there's more downside to come. There's a better time to get back in, and that's what the strategy sort of does. And then finally, we've got a profit target 21%. So I've used the same 21% in a couple other strategies with SOXL and TQQQ. And then it's also got a 16% trailing stop. So some of those other strategies had it set by the dollar. TQQQ might split or keep going up. So it's probably better to do this by percentages so that you can adjust as the price changes. So let's go over to TradingView, and I'll show you how I set it up and just show you a couple examples real quick. So given that it's pretty hard to see the indicators on wallstreet.io, I wanted to pull up the strategy in TradingView and show you how I set up the indicators so they're a little bit easier to see. So you can see with the MACD, I just used the histogram setup, which to me is a lot clearer than the two lines. And then I've got the stochastic. So these two indicators here make up my bullish momentum buy signal. So I need to have both of these bullish. So that means for this one here on the stochastic, the green line needs to be above the red. Then my second buy signal is this RSI. And I've got the line set here at 36, so I can easily see if that dips below, and that gives me one of the other buy criteria. Just a reminder, we don't want to buy if there's sell criteria present, so that brings us down to the sell criteria. So we have another MACD. This one's a little bit slower than the one on top. And then here's the ADX. So if we had the ADX above this red line, and we have a bearish MACD, that's our sell criteria. So the buy criteria is actually pretty commonly met, either one or the other, either the RSI or the combination of the stochastic and the MACD. But the strategy works really well when you're ignoring those buy criteria because you have the sell criteria present. So I want to show you a couple examples of how the strategy's worked in the past. So just recently, it's had a really good buy. We had the ADX here above 23 just recently, looking like we could start the beginning of a downtrend. But then the momentum came back bullish, and we got a buy signal here. And we've hit the 21% profit target. And a lot of the times I'll use the profit target to take, some bit of profit. You don't necessarily have to take all of it at once. So my favorite thing is to just kind of take positions down over time, knowing that if we've run 21% in one trade, that's a pretty good place to start to take some off the table, maybe rebalance. Just recently this happened with another one of my strategies in SOXL. And we've ran almost 40% now, and I started to take some profit as early as 25%, but I've still been able to take more and more off the table as we've gone up higher and higher. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So you can see recently we had this losing trade. This one actually got stopped out on the trailing stop, and then we had the sell criteria present just for a little bit, and then it went away here, and there was that recent good trade. Two winners here, and then it kind of got chopped around for a little bit. Here was a losing trade, lost 15% on that one, back to back with another losing trade. So those can happen. The average loss is pretty high on this strategy because it is kind of swinging for the fences most of the time. Here I showed you coronavirus earlier, how it dodged a lot of that. So we were trending above in the ADX. And like I said, that doesn't happen too often to have this ADX over 23. So it happened here at the beginning of 2020. We were trending really strong, bullish. And then we had these two downward days that triggered the MACD. And that stayed bearish all the way down till really what was the bottom. You know, I mentioned you would have missed this big day. This was one really big day, but then you would have gotten back in. So it did a really good job on that drawdown. In 2018, it did not do as well, so it had a couple losing trades. It did better than just holding all the way down, and it did get the bottom pretty good. Started to come back in right here in January, so we bottomed on Christmas Eve. But all in all, it's a pretty good performing strategy. Gives a good idea of when it's a good time to enter, especially after a big downdraft, and when you want to start to be careful. You can see if we go back here to present day in this current trade, the ADX has actually started to curl back up towards 23 now that we've just had this crazy run to all-time highs. So we're starting to curve back up here. Still very bullish on the MACD, but something to look out for. Stochastic, everything is basically pinned to the top right now. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and check out my channel. I've got videos with several other trading strategies and other stock reviews and stock market analysis. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.